So I think the best place for us to start is to discuss the word entrepreneur. Now, I've watched over probably about the past 10 years that word become a very poppy word, and there's
It's been thrown around a lot.
it gets thrown around a lot. So I meet people that say to me, "Oh, I'm an entrepreneur." Now, the thing about it is that entrepreneurship is not something that you buy in David Jones or in Harrods and you spray yourself with. It's just, and people go around throwing this word around saying that they're an entrepreneur. The reality is that an entrepreneur will never call themselves an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And entrepreneurship is something that is earned. It's something that you hear somebody comment on your career or your ability to fulfill your dreams and aspirations and assist other people to do the same
Because
thing.
an entrepreneur is too busy living their life to be even calling themselves that. They're
Absolutely.
just off on their own thing,
Yeah.
focusing on what it is they're here to do.
Another thing about entrepreneurs is that they're also really, really humble. So they don't go around, telling everybody or advertising the fact that they think that they're an entrepreneur.
Yep.
Now, on top of this, we have another thing called an entrepren-not.
I love that word, an entrepren-not.
An entrepren-not. So an entrepren-not is somebody that goes around telling everybody that they're an entrepreneur. Because the truth about it is an entrepreneur, as we said, would never do that.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to make sure that as we go through this next bit, we're going to really, really clarify what the difference between
The difference
two.
between the two, yeah.
And it'll help you to see where you sit. And I think you'll start to fully understand what it is that allows a person to have earned the right to actually be an entrepreneur.
Yeah, because an entrepreneur really has a balance and they have a real clarity of vision about where they're headed, right?
Yeah, totally.
Whereas someone who's an entrepreneur is a little bit all over the place. They might seem on the outside like they've got everything together, but actually when you look deeper, their lives are a bit mismatched. The areas of their life are competing against one another.
Yeah.
They're blowing themselves up. They're going to work and blowing themselves up at work, and then in their private life, they're going and blowing themselves up in their private lives as well.
So a great example would be the Wolf of Wall Street.
Oh yeah.
So in the Wolf of Wall Street, you see, this entrepreneurship happening, where it's scrambling around on the outside. You got these individual areas of their life competing with one another. So their social life is competing with their work life. Their work life is competing with their financial life. Their financial life is competing with their relationships. So entrepreneurs tend to have a situation where they are scrambling around on the outside, trying to get this quick fix, this quick buck, this quick injection of cash, this quick win. Where an entrepreneur is, their concept of being successful is steady as she goes, steady as she grows.
Yeah, absolutely.
They have a horizon mentality.
Longevity.
Absolutely. They have a horizon mentality about where they want to be within their lives. And in actual fact, their vision and their mission for their life is beyond their lifetime.
Definitely.
It's beyond their lifetime.
And they're really connected with it. So they have a really deep connection with what it is they're here to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And on top of this, they're to throw the word spiritual in here, but they have a deep spiritual connection with their vision and their mission for their lives. And I suppose if you are the sort of person that is looking for the quick fix, the quick buck, how do I make it now? Probably the best thing to do right now is to actually press stop on this, because then this particular webinar is actually not for you.
Yeah, because the way we talk about entrepreneurs, it's the whole system. It's not just one part of somebody's life.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, I think, misinterpret entrepreneurship with the work part of their life. And what we're going to talk to you about today as we go through this webinar is that it's the whole system. It cannot be just an isolated part of their life.
Yeah.
It's the whole life.
Well, one of the things that happens with entrepreneurs is that when you study under them, or when you research their behavior, you will see that there is an absolute congruency between every single area of their lives. So their individual areas of their life do not compete with one another. They see their vision as, let alone helping them live a balanced life in their own life, but also helping the individual people who are involved within their organization to also live a balanced life.
Absolutely.
They see themselves as a teacher, someone that is a teacher, and they take that teacher part of being a leader as something very, very serious, because they understand that people look up to them. Where when you have an entrepreneur will run around on the outside trying to find the quick fix, the quick buck. Where's the deal? Where's the business? What do I buy? And what they do is they sell their time, their quality time, for cash and money.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where, when you have a long-term vision, steady as she goes, steady as she grows, your long-term vision is based on the fact that the end game.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Yep, absolutely.
You know where it is you're going to end up. And in actual fact, what you do is you feel as if that event of where you know you want to be at has already occurred. And you allow the resonance, a person who is an entrepreneur is already resonating at that frequency.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So if you can consider your life kind of like a GPS when you get into the car, an entrepreneur will jump into the car and they will put into the GPS where they're at. Does that make sense? And they might put the next step. Where when you have an entrepreneur will jump into the car of their lives and they know the destination, let alone do they know the destination. They're clear about what they want to get when they get there. And they have, so when they're
and also how they want to feel when they get there.
And how they want to feel when they get there. So they know, they're clear about what they want to get, they're clear about what they want to feel, and they're clear about what it looks like. And they're already every opportunity resonating at that frequency. Where an entrepreneur will be stumbling through life, not knowing what's going to happen next, hoping, that it's going to happen next, that they're going to have this, the stars are going to align and the clouds are going to align and there's going to be this big bolt and then everything's going to be successful and it's going to turn out the way you want to get it, And they want to have the pleasure of their success without the pain of it. They want to have the peace of the success without the war.
They're kind of lopsided about the whole thing.
Yeah, totally.
So I hope you guys are getting the picture about what we're looking at and what we're talking about when we're talking about entrepreneurs, the type of person that we're addressing or the type of person that we're assuming that you are looking to be. Because if that's not the case, like if you're looking in to this webinar for the quick buck or the quick fix or any of that sort of stuff, then this is definitely not for you. We see entrepreneurship as the whole picture.
Now, I want you to think about something. I want you to think about, let's say you're looking at your business or you're looking at your life in some way, or you're looking to get into a business, right? Yeah. You have to understand that 20% of business is systems. 80% of business or success is basically information and mindset. So if you speak with any coach, any really, really high-end good coach, they will tell you 20% systems, 80% mindset. So you have to understand that everything you have in your life is based on a mindset or a system that you have created that has delivered what you call your outcome. Your outcome is what you call your life. Meaning how often you get to travel, how often you get to spend time with your family, and how often it is you get to fulfill your dreams, and how much money you earn. All of those things are based on the system.
where you spend your money, how you spend your time, all that stuff. Yeah.
All those things are based on a system that you've built and delivered. And if you have to understand, if you want to have something greater, then you have to be able to alter the system. Now, the system is based on a thing called your point of view. Meaning, if you can imagine that you have your peripheral vision and everything that you see within what you call your movie, which is your life, all of that is based on your point of view, because your view of that life has a point, and that point is you.
It's you, yep.
Now, underneath your point of view, we have a thing called an innermost dominating thought. So your innermost dominating thought creates your point of view, which creates what's called your actions and your outcomes, which is what you call your life. And if you want to do something, if you want to have a different life, then you have to do something about the point of view, but you have to do something about the foundation of that point of view, which is your innermost dominating thought. Because if your innermost dominating thought is, I want to have a quick fix, quick book, then that's all you're ever going to be doing in terms of your point of view and what you call your life.
Absolutely. And another way to put that is this: if the outside of you or your words say something like, I'm worth it, I deserve all this money, but your innermost dominant thought underneath all of that says, I'm not good enough or I'm not worthy, then it's your innermost dominant thought that runs everything, not what you're consciously saying to yourself.
Totally.
So part of the issue with entrepreneurs is that sometimes they don't realise that there's an innermost dominant thought that runs it, and they can't figure out why their life isn't working out the way they want, because subconsciously they've got something else going on.
The other thing is that, let's say that there's a great danger in entrepreneurs trying to pretend that they're entrepreneurs, right?
Yes.
And it's this. Let's say that you're saying to yourself that, you're saying to the world that you're successful and you're an entrepreneur. But inside yourself, you feel as if you're not smart enough, not intelligent enough, not wise enough, not sexy enough. If you feel deep down inside of yourself that you are not those things, you cannot trick fate. You have to earn the right to be an entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
So here's what that means. That if you feel that there's an incongruency between who you are at the depths of your heart and who you want to be, then every morning you wake up and go into the world to create the reality that you want, you will subconsciously beat yourself up, ridicule yourself, slam yourself, and put yourself down because of that incongruency. Because you feel as if there's an incongruency, and you feel ingenuine, you feel like you're lying to everybody around you, and you're not being really, really okay with who you are.
Absolutely. So let's talk about then some of the differences between entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs.
Okay.
Because as we talk about those differences, I think what's going to happen is you're going to start to realize, because you have to understand each and every one of us has something more that we want to get. So even if you class as an entrepreneur in some ways on the scale, there would be some things in your life that you might feel incongruent. So it might feel an added balance in your work-life balance, or it might be that you feel like you're on track in some ways, but your financial life isn't agreeing. You don't feel like you've got enough money in the bank, or stuff's happening at work. So when we go through these, it's just going to help you to sort out what's going on for you and what the innermost dominant thought might be that's triggering what's happening on the outside.
And I mean, ultimately, at the end of this, we want to be able to help you to work out what your innermost dominating
absolutely.
thought. Because we can teach you all the systems that you want. We can give you the whole 20%, but if you don't do anything about the innermost dominating thought, you'll never follow the systems that you need to follow.
Absolutely.
Because you'll always be subconsciously sabotaging your reality, because you come from a lineage of saboteurs.
Absolutely.
You come from a lineage of sabotage. So you have to understand, if you want to be of influence in the world, you have to be inwardly fluent with yourself.
Well, actually, that's perfect, because that leads us on to our first one.
Yeah.
So entrepreneurs are outwardly influenced and inwardly lost.
Yes.
Versus entrepreneurs who are inwardly fluent, therefore outwardly influential. So let's describe that.
So an entrepreneur who is outwardly influenced, what they're doing is they're scrambling around in the outside world, hoping that when I get the deal, then I'm going to feel enough.
Yes.
When I win the contract, then I'm going to feel enough.
Yep.
When I buy the business, then I'll feel enough. When I get the new partner, then I'll feel enough. So they're waiting for the outer world to give them the sensation of the inner world.
Yes.
So they're living in the land of what is known as cause and effect. When the money turns up, then I'll feel like I succeeded.
So these people, entrepreneurs, are waiting to see it first before they believe it.
Yes.
Whereas an entrepreneur believes it before they see it.
Well, it's even deeper than believe it. They know it.
Yes.
Their certainty about where they're going is greater than any human being's doubt. I saw a fantastic interview with Elon Musk a couple of weeks ago, and he was asked, was there ever a time where you doubted it? And he looked at the guy and he literally laughed. He said, no, I was always going to be successful. That was it. It was unquestionable how this person felt.
Yeah.
So we spoke a second ago about a thing called cause and effect. And we said that, people the entrepreneurs live in the land of cause and effect. They're waiting on the bank to give them the money before they're going to feel enough, or they're waiting for the client to turn up before they're going to feel enough, or they're waiting for the shop to turn up, or the business to fall out of the sky, or the client to buy their online package before they're going to feel enough. You have to feel enough before then. So when I talk about feeling enough, what I mean is that you have to feel inside of yourself, and what we mean is you have to feel inside of yourself as if the dream and aspiration that you're looking for has already given you that level of success. You feel ultimately successful inside of yourself at a very, very deep level. Now, when you broadcast this feeling of success with intensity and frequency into the atmosphere, what happens is that the atmosphere collaborates with particles in the atmosphere to bring about what you're feeling. So in actual fact, success has to be driven from the inside out.
100%.
So success in life is an inside job.
Yes.
It is not an outside job. And, I spend a lot of time talking with business leaders, about the power of encouraging other leaders to feel successful from the inside out. Because any slither of doubt puts you straight back in to the entrepreneur.
Yes.
So when you feel successful from the inside out, to a point where literally, if you get an entrepreneur to talk about gratitude or the levels of success that they feel and the gratitude they feel for what they've achieved in their lives, they will well up with tears. And you'll watch tears roll down the side of their face, and they will tell you how grateful they feel for what they've been able to achieve, and how humble they feel for being such an influence in the world.
Absolutely.
So Einstein had a great statement many years ago, and it's, you know, you never truly know whether these statements that float around online are actually Einstein's or not. But he said, when you match the frequency of the success with your present reality, it's only a matter of time before that reality finds you. So what he's talking about is you have to feel successful and you have to cause the effect. When you cause the effect, it means that you understand the importance of being in control of your emotional states. And you understand the importance of the fact that you are a broadcasting system emanating into the world, and you are the point of view. And it's that if that innermost dominating thought is one of, I am truly successful, I fully get how my immortal view of my reality is going to influence me and the world beyond my lifetime, to the point where it makes you weep. At that moment, you create the reality that you want.
Absolutely. You can't trick that either. You can't fake that, because your life determines what your innermost dominant thought is.
Now, another cool thing is this, right? When people who are entrepreneurs, when you speak with an entrepreneur from 1995 to 1996, the whole of 95 and 96, I spent a lot of time sitting with people who were extremely wealthy. It's a different story, not for today, but who are extremely wealthy. And there was a couple of common threads amongst them, but one of them was, whenever events would occur in their lives that would normally piss someone off, like, you know, somebody cuts in front of them, somebody, you know,
while they're driving.
Yeah, somebody annoys them in some way. They all see those events as exterior trigger points for them to feel grateful and successful, and to feel humble, and to be more than their petty argumentative selves.
Absolutely.
So they get, what happens is that when you start to understand that those signals that turn up in our outer world, like, you know, but I didn't get the deal. Their answer to that is, where's the next deal?
Where's the next deal? Absolutely.
Their answer is not, oh my God, I didn't get the deal, my life is over, shit's gonna end. They get that if that deal didn't turn out, it's because that deal wasn't part of the vision.
So the people who are entrepreneurs, will be outwardly influenced by that, and that will affect how they feel internally. Whereas an entrepreneur will not let that affect them, because they have a greater vision inside of themselves.
Entrepreneurs are very well used to giving up a long-term vision for a short-term emotion.
So can I just go back then with this inwardly fluent? So people who are entrepreneurs are inwardly fluent, therefore they're outwardly influential. What happens with them is that when they're creating a new system, right, they're not basing that system on anything that they've already known, or anything that's outwardly influenced. They're basing it on what their inner knowing. Whereas someone who's an entrepreneur, they're trying to get ahead by building a system based on old feelings and emotions. And if they're doing that, they're just always going to get the same thing. It might seem like something different, because maybe this year they'll go on holiday to Bali, or this year they'll go on holiday to Hawaii, but at the end of the day, they've still got the same emotions that are running what's happening.
That's right.
Absolutely.
So an entrepreneur understands that the feelings and emotions that they are going through continuously are always intrinsically intertwined with the end game.
Yes, absolutely.
So entrepreneurs will run around digging many wells, where an entrepreneur will dig one well, they'll dig it deep and they'll dig it well. So entrepreneurs are not looking, you know, they don't pick up these self-help books or go to these programs and seminars because they want to fix something. You know, an entrepreneur will be reading this stuff because they want to fix something. An entrepreneur reads this stuff because they know that there's a piece of information in there that is going to help them build on what they've already built.
Absolutely. So let's go and talk about the next one then. So, because that leads perfectly on. So the next one is that an entrepreneur is in the rat race. And even if they're out of the rat race, they're still acting like a rat.
Yeah.
And an entrepreneur has a plan.
Yeah.
So like you said about the GPS thing before,
Yeah.
an entrepreneur understands that there's somewhere that they're going to go. So they're not working on themselves to fix themselves. They're working on themselves because it's a part of a bigger plan,
Yes.
part of a bigger picture.
Yes.
Whereas an entrepreneur is scrambling around, unsure about where they're going and just being kind of led along by the crowd.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So an entrepreneur will input into their system information that is bringing where they want to be closer to them.
Yes, absolutely.
An entrepreneur puts into the system anything that they feel is going to try to make them feel better about where they're already at.
And that's a big difference, because what's happening is, so basically what you're saying is that the feelings of the person who is an entrepreneur and who has the plan
Yeah.
are already set.
Yeah.
Whereas the feelings of the person who's in the rat race is dictated by what's happening around them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and it's important. I mean, especially because we're talking to entrepreneurs and leaders, right?
Yeah.
Why would we be talking about feelings?
I know.
Well, in actual fact, you know, our feelings basically collaborate and collide together with particles to bring about what we're feeling about. So if you're feeling, you know, unsuccessful or sad or dread or any of those sorts of things, it's okay to feel those things, but as quickly as you possibly can, you need to tune into the frequency of success as often as possible. And it was obviously a great book that came out years ago called Think and Grow Rich. But in actual fact, that book should have been called Think, Feel and Grow Rich. Because we now know that feelings and how we broadcast them into the world are how we bring about what it is we're feeling about.
Absolutely, because when you think about something, it's like an electrical signal goes out, right? But if you're thinking about one thing and you're feeling another, the feeling emotion is about bringing something to you. It's like a magnetic frequency, so it brings something to you.
So our feelings bring towards us where
our thoughts send a signal out.
Broadcast. So, but the brain and central nervous system is an antenna. It receives and emits information. Your feelings are bringing towards you, and your visions are broadcasting out.
So they have to be congruent in order to work. In order for us to have what we really want in our lives, we have that innermost dominant thought has to be congruent.
Totally.
Well, then that will lead us to the next one then. So a person who's an entrepreneur is incongruent. And a person who's an entrepreneur is congruent. So I'll just give you an example of that. So the person who is incongruent wants the dream, this vision of where they want to go, to give them the feeling of success. Whereas the entrepreneur is congruent, and therefore the feeling of success that they want to get to, they're already feeling it now.
Because
so
you can't create a reality based on the feelings and emotions that have created it when you're
Absolutely,
So in actual fact, when you try to create a reality based on the same feelings and emotions of the one you're already in, all you're doing is you're just recreating the same reality.
Yes.
So in actual fact, you have to experience an emotion of gratitude and success, because, you know, the emotional signature that an event of success has occurred is gratitude. So when you feel gratitude beyond anything you've ever felt for achieving your dreams and aspirations, and the more you tune into that gratitude and attach it to a visualization of how you want your life to run out, and the more you do it over and over again with frequency and frequently, and broadcasting it, the quicker that event is coming about.
Yes. So in terms of the congruency then, it's about being as close as possible to the person that you say that you are to the person that you actually are. Right? Because an entrepreneur will go out and, an entrepreneur will go out and spout things and say, I'm this, I'm that, I'm the other thing. But their lives don't reflect that. So they're not congruent. So how they feel and how they think don't actually match up to what they're trying to show the world. And people really see through that. Whereas an entrepreneur can say something and people feel that there's a truth to it. And they feel like their lives are congruent with how they're acting and how they're feeling.
So we see that the feedback system of their life is telling you the position that the person's actually in, because there's a congruency. And it's all relative. You know, I think it's important to understand that as we get and create new spheres of influence, as we fully understand, you know what, if I want to create the reality that I want, I need to do something about the innermost dominating thought that's created the one I'm in.
Yeah.
Because otherwise I'm running around and I'm trying to buy systems, and, you know, if I read this book, if I go see this Richard Branson, or if I go listen to this speaker, or if I attend this seminar, and in actual fact, unless that seminar is going to get you to shift your innermost dominating thought, you can forget about it, because all it is a seminar that's going to continue to help you to polish the brass on the Titanic.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, you're going to continue to sink unless you shift that innermost dominating thought.
Yeah.
Because the more you keep creating the same reality over and over and over again, the more you keep going through the same feelings and emotions over and over and over again, and creating an even greater and greater incongruency, eventually you're going to feel this sensation of wanting to give up.
Yes.
Does that make sense? So people give up on their dreams and aspirations because suddenly they realize that there's nothing in their outer world is going to quench what resides in their inner world.
Yes.
So they suddenly go through time at the age of 35, 40, 45 and think, you know what, I don't know what to do, but I know that what I'm doing is not enough.
It's not right, yeah.
And it's very likely that the people that are on the other end of this webinar are experiencing the same thing. There's something that perhaps I'm at the point where I don't want to scoot around the outside anymore. I don't want to scratch the surface. I get that there must be something deep inside of me that is telling me that I'm not enough to be able to achieve this. Or I don't know how to tune out of that frequency inside of me. I don't know how to shift that innermost dominating thought, which is creating the emotion and the incongruency in the first place.
Absolutely, because the further and the wider the gap gets, the more it seems impossible to bridge that gap.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because it keeps happening over time.
Yeah, because it keeps repeating itself.
Yeah.
And it shows up in the different cycles.
Yeah.
And it will show up in the different cycles in your personal life, in your financial life, in your business life, in your social life. It will just keep repeating itself.
Yeah. And people are on the other end of this. I mean, you're listening to this because you get that.
Yeah.
You know, you're probably at that point where you're going, okay, whatever I need to do,
show me.
just show me. I just need to do it. Because, you know, you have something that you want to do here. And you know what? Every single human being knows that, you know, outside what they've created, there's more to them.
Yeah.
Every single human being has an immortal desire to want to be greater, to have an immortal desire to want to be richer, smarter, poorer, have more experiences, educate their kids in a different way, travel the world. We all have that. But what if the secret to actually getting there and fulfilling that dream and living that life is within you?
Yes.
It's not in a book. It's not in a room. It's not in the business. What if in actual fact, to get there, you need to start from the inside. You need to get that deep inside of yourself so that you fully know already that that event is on its way to finding you.
Yeah.
And that's what entrepreneurship is actually all
Absolutely.
about. And another thing that you'll notice about entrepreneurs is that they have an immortal view of their reality. Does that make sense? Their vision for the world is greater than the pettiness of their mortal life.
Yes.
Their vision of their world is immortal. They see themselves beyond their lifetime. They know that they're here to leave a legacy that is immortal.
So this brings us to the next one, which is the difference between an entrepreneur who has a short-term vision,
fix, quick book,
and an entrepreneur who has a long-term vision.
Yeah.
So a short-term now kind of mindset versus a long-term mentality.
That's exactly
so an entrepreneur will give up the immediate satisfaction of the money or the partying or whatever it happens to be, because their vision is so clear that they understand that that's where they're headed, that their vision is greater than anything that they could get in this present moment. Whereas an entrepreneur will chase the feeling of success in this moment because they don't see that their vision is enough. And they don't feel like they're capable of achieving that vision. So what they do is they try and grab success
through immediate
satisfaction. And the way they'll do that is they'll get the acknowledgement, the roars from the crowd if they need to, or they'll get a good win, you know, so they get a lot of money in all at once, or they'll go and party hard or whatever. But these things only last a short amount of time.
And the entrepreneur looks at the entrepreneur and that behavior and goes, that's not sustainable.
It's not.
That's not sustainable at the level that you want to get to.
Yep.
So I meet lots of, like I've met in working, especially in the housing industry, educating in the housing industry. You know, I meet these young guys that come through, you know, and they start earning like $250,000, $300,000 a year. And they're like 22, 23, 24 years old, really, really young guys. And what happens is that they're not able to sustain it So they build a life that they want to vacate from, Every weekend they want to vacate from the stress and they just go out and blow themselves up. So instead of having a strong start, they reach a weekend or a week ending. And so in actual fact, the person who is an entrepreneur has a long-term vision for their reality. They're really, really clear about how they want things to turn out. They do not tap into the illusion of quick fix, quick book.
Well, they wouldn't sacrifice that vision for the money.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Or they wouldn't sacrifice that vision for the party or for the applause of the crowd or for whatever it is, because they understand that their vision is bigger than that.
I mean, when you look at The Wolf of Wall Street, I mean, right from when I started watching the movie,
it was a great movie, by the way.
Oh my God, I loved that movie. It was so, especially the clip on the plane. My God, that was hilarious. But when you looked at that movie, you knew it was a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
You just knew this is a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
This is not sustainable. This is quick fix, quick book, short-term gratification as opposed to long-term satisfaction.
And you could tell that there was a lack of self-worth there, that the innermost dominant thought was, I need to get something for me now, because he didn't have that understanding of the vision.
And ultimately, I'm screwing over the general public. I don't want to feel the pain of it. So every opportunity that I finish screwing over the general public, I'm going to stick a straw up my nose and get high.
Yeah.
I'm going to have a lewd, because they used to do it, I think called quaaludes, and they do those quaaludes, and they do alcohol, and so they were just blowing themselves up.
Yeah.
That's all short-term satisfaction. So even in terms of short-term satisfaction or entrepreneurs, you can see with entrepreneurs that it looks like you'd sit there going, wow, wouldn't that be fantastic?
To have that money or to have that illusion of success, or that, to be able to go and party like that all the time. So it looks like to the outside world, but the incongruency thing comes in again.
And an entrepreneur will go, I probably wouldn't have done that. Ooh, I'd probably slow down there. Ooh, you know what you could have done with that money? And you could have put it into your vision and your mission and gone and lived a really, really whole life.
Yeah.
I think that this is a lesson there. We all need to go back and watch that movie.
Okay, so I guess the next thing that we're going to talk about, the point of comparison, is the difference between entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs in terms of their balance in their lives, and the fact that an entrepreneur has areas of their lives that compete with one another. Yeah. So their
which we kind of touched on, and in terms of what we just spoke about, you can really see how entrepreneurs, their career, competes with their family life.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
Yeah. So, the career is competing with their family life, financial life is competing with their social life. So there's nothing congruent in terms of the balance in all of the lives. Whereas an entrepreneur is different, because an entrepreneur sees the whole thing as one.
Yeah,
there's no sense of separation between each one.
And it's because they can see how each one is intrinsically linked.
Yes.
And they're balanced about the view that they're balanced about how they see their world and their reality.
Yes.
There is no career and vocation. Lots of people say to me, I have this thing that I really want to do in my life, but I'm in this shitty career. And the reason that goes on is because there's an incongruency. They can't see how their career has actually helped them to build their vocation and how they're intrinsically linked to one another. That without the career, they never would have been able to travel.
Yes.
Without the career, they never would have been able to attend the programs and the seminars. Yeah. So your life only becomes a vacation when you combine your career with your vocation. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So when your career and vocation are intrinsically linked, and you can see that there is no separation between the two, your life becomes a vacation. Other than that, the entrepreneur has built a life that they want to vacate from.
Yes.
So like 4 weeks of the year, they go on vacation. Vacation is that I'm vacating my life to go and have a break. You see
they do it even just on the weekends.
Yeah.
It's like the weekend is a break from the work.
Yeah.
Because it's too much to deal with, because it's not, they don't understand that their social life and their work life are all one. It's one life. It's not, it's separate sections or separate elements, but it's one life.
Yeah.
So an entrepreneur can understand that. And it's also a thing of work-life balance, because I think some people feel like work-life balance needs to be, I spend as much time at work as I do at home, as I do it with the family, as I do with friends, as I do, etc. Yeah. And it's not like that at all, because sometimes you have to work. And sometimes, like for example, we will do 2 seminars in a row, and you're top heavy in terms of workload.
Yeah.
But when you're at home, that you're also at home.
Yeah.
So then times there's that you're top heavy at home, but the whole thing works out, and that's what a work-life balance is.
And the thing about it is that, you know, in terms of my own life, when I go home, I'm really with my kids.
Absolutely. You're really at home, really present, doing what is happening at that time.
Yeah.
And you're not focusing on work.
Yeah.
But an entrepreneur-not will either escape so they don't have to focus on work, but when they're at home, sometimes they will be focused on work because they're not secure, they're not sure about what's happening over there.
Like their feet may have left the office,
Yes.
but their mind is still in the office. And the other thing that's really important to understand is that an entrepreneur, everybody's involved in the business. Does that make sense? So we're all the business. So as an entrepreneur, I'm not just trying to build my own dreams and aspirations. You know, in terms of the team, we're trying to get the team to fulfill their dreams and aspirations. I'm trying to get the kids to fulfill their dreams and aspirations. And
because it's not just about you. It's about wife. It's about kids. It's about colleagues. It's about friends.
Yeah.
And as you grow, everybody grows along with you, and everybody is. So as you make this whole thing one, it's this whole thing that works together to move forward.
Everybody's a part of the corporation.
Absolutely.
And you know, entrepreneurs understand that, you know, they're looked up to. So therefore, they have to walk their walk and talk their talk. They have to make sure that in terms of their lives, they're not living a dualistic reality, you know? They're not one person at home and another person at work. So it is just one thing. You know, I'm always on pointer, and you are too. Whether we're out on the weekend,
Absolutely.
or whether we're at work, we're always on pointer. We're always learning. We're always growing. People can ask us questions at any point in time.
The vision is the same, regardless, because the vision incorporates the vision incorporates the social, it incorporates the personal, it incorporates financial, it incorporates work, it incorporates everything.
Yeah.
Okay, so another real big point of difference between entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs, I still love that word, entrepreneurs, I think it's cool, is an entrepreneur is a person who thinks and worries about how, whereas an entrepreneur worries about why, and they don't even worry about it. Their whole focus is on why. An entrepreneur is focused on the how. So an entrepreneur will try and figure out, how do I get ahead? How do I feel successful? How do I do this? How do I do that? So they're trying to figure it out by doing things, whereas an entrepreneur's essence and the entrepreneur's focus is the reason that they're doing it. So their whole essence and their whole being is focused on the why. Why am I doing it? When you focus on the why, all the hows take care of themselves. You don't have to worry about one how in your life. Now, and when you're worried about the hows, it shows that you don't have a reason. Because when you've got a reason for doing what you do, you will do anything. It's not about, oh, I don't want to do that, or I don't want to do this. It's about you'll do anything because you know that that's what you want to go to. That's the place you want to head to.
And I think it's also important to understand, you know, when we talk about reason and why, they're literally the same thing. But your reason, when you're really clear with your reason, you tend to only do things that's going to bring about more of your reason. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
You don't split your personality like a have-not will do. You don't split your personality like an entrepreneur will do. You have everything that you do is always about, you know, the vision and the mission. How do we get everybody there comfortably? You know, how do we get everybody there in such a way that we're inspired and we feel a part of it?
And I think, you know, when you look at anybody who's, you know, you look at the true entrepreneurs out there, the likes of Branson, Musk, Zuckerberg, people like that. You know, they have a lot of things in common. And the first thing that they have in common is they're all focused on a why. You can read up on Mark Zuckerberg's why on the internet, and you can see how it changes and how it changed. Because initially his whole intention and his whole why was to make the school an open and connected place. And now his whole intention is to make the world a more open and connected place. But at the end of the day, the why underlies everything that he does. And when you look at any of those sorts of people, they have certain things in common other than the why. And some of the things that they've got in common is that they want to leave a legacy.
Yeah.
They have a long-term vision. They know it's more than just about their lifetime.
And
they want to leave something behind here for people, something different.
The other thing is that they're really innovative.
Yep.
So they don't tend to follow trends.
Absolutely.
They create them. They don't follow other people's paths. They dig them. Does that
Yep.
make sense? And when you dig a path, other people follow that path.
Absolutely.
They see themselves beyond their lifetime. They're really, really innovative. They have
Great vision.
A great vision, and the vision is of service to humanity.
Absolutely.
They're clear about how their vision is of service to humanity, which is very, very important. And it doesn't mean that everybody has to run out and be Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah.
You know, your vision can be really small. Your vision can be that every morning you wake up, you go out the front of your house, you have a little old timber stool there, you sit that at the front of your house, and there's old John lives up the street, and his wife died 15 years ago, and he comes past and he tells you about his roses every morning, and you stop and you connect with him and you speak with him and you bring understanding there and energy there, and you give him something to live for, because every morning he wants to get out and look at his roses and bring you some down or tell you about his aphids or whatever goes on for John. But that's you know, Zuckerberg's vision is no more nobler than you taking the stool at the front of your house. So I think a lot of people get caught up in, oh my God, it has to be this big, huge thing.
And it doesn't have to be a great, big, huge thing. The key, though, is that it has to be cathedralised in the sense it's got to be greater than you.
Yeah.
So it's got to be greater. Now, we've talked about the short-term, long-term before.
Yeah.
It's got to be greater than the short-term gratification.
Yeah.
It's got to have some sort of longevity. So it doesn't have to be huge in the sense that it touches every single person in the world.
That's
and
right.
It's as great as Zuckerberg's. It just has to be. It has to have longevity, and it has to be greater than just yourself.
Yeah.
It has to somehow touch other people and be of service to other people.
Because I think it's important. We were talking a little bit about hows there, but people get caught up in the hows and whats. You know, how do I do it and what do I do? And the problem with that is that hows and whats keep you completely lost, and the masses, they're a complete outer influence.
Absolutely.
A complete outer influence. It always has to be. You always have to ask yourself, why do I want to do it?
And so a great example is that if I gave any of you guys the handbook to creating a new Facebook, right?
Yeah.
And you had a step-by-step system to follow
Yeah.
of all the hows that you needed to do in order to create that handbook, guaranteed you would not do that. And the reason, even though you've got all the hows, even though it's all there, the reason you wouldn't do it is because your why doesn't match Mark Zuckerberg's why.
And so everybody's why is individual to
It's
them.
individual, absolutely.
Another thing is that, you know, in terms of the hows, you know, I'll often have people in a room and they'll be like, I'll say to them, okay, I'm going to show you how a how can just not get you what you want. And I'll say to somebody, okay, tell me something that you feel you really know how to do. And somebody will say to me, oh, I really know how to box. And I'll go, great, come up here and show me how you box. And they'll go, well, you put your hands up like this and you jab, and I'm like, no, that's what you do. And they'll go, oh, right. And I said, no, tell me how you do it. And they'll go, well, you know, I get my shorts on and I get my boots on, I put my gloves on. And I said, no, that's what you do. Tell me how you do it. And they'll keep going until eventually they'll look at you and go, I can't tell you how you do it. The point about this is that nobody can tell you how to find your why or go and be an entrepreneur.
Yeah. But if you ask them, why do you box? Why do you play music?
Yeah.
Why do you go and do golf? They will be able to speak from their heart, and they'll know that the how doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The why is the key.
And the cool thing is that when you ask a person that sort of question, suddenly you'll see their eyes well up and they tap
Shift.
into it, and there's this, they suddenly get this, oh my God, I'm actually for the first time communicating why I do it. So don't worry about the hows and whats. Be more focused on the reason, which is your why. What's the reason you get up every morning at 5:30 to go to work? What's the reason you're doing it? What is the reason? Get really clear about your reason. And when you're really clear about your reason, it doesn't matter about hows and whats.
Yeah, totally. Okay, let's talk about the next one. The next one's interesting. The difference between an entrepreneur and an entrepren-not is that an entrepren-not will try and control the situation and control everything that's happening in the environment, whereas an entrepreneur has the ability to delegate.
Yeah.
Now, when an entrepreneur is trying to control, it's because they feel out of control. So what they're trying to do is trying to make everything happen the way that they want it to happen.
Yeah.
And what's going on there is that they're involved too much in what's in low priority stuff instead of high priority stuff. So An entrepreneur will
Can
delegate.
I just say something in terms of my business
Yeah, of
years ago
course.
and how I used to operate in the business? So I'd get a marketing guy in, right, and his expertise.
Who's an expert in marketing, by the way.
I'd get a marketing guy in, and I'd be like standing over them going, okay, yeah, but don't you think you need to do this, and shouldn't we go over there, and what about if we advertise here, and what about, and then suddenly I realised that, you know, I was running a dictatorship. Does that make sense? I was bringing them in, and rather than letting them blossom and flourish, that doesn't mean that you completely have no reins over what goes on, but, you know, talking about your why and asking different questions, like, you know, how can we improve this? How can we get bigger? How can we reach more people? How can we get more people in the
All
city?
in line with your why.
All in line with my why. It completely changes.
Absolutely.
So lots of people, lots of entrepreneurs run around employing the right people, but they just run a dictatorship, and the staff just hate being in the dictatorship.
And the reason that happens, and I know the reason that happened for you, was because you were afraid to let go, or afraid to let go of the control, because you felt like you had to do it all.
That's right. That's right.
So when you're an entrepreneur, what happens is that you are allowed to delegate. And what I mean by that is you start to realize that your highest priority task is doing something different, because at the end of the day, you're not a marketer.
That's right.
So your job and your highest priority and the biggest thing that you love to do is not marketing.
That's right.
Whereas this person's job and what this person's love is marketing. That's what they love to do. So when you can delegate to that person and let them shine and let them blossom in that role, you get to do more of what you love to do.
Yeah.
Now, like you said, that doesn't mean that you let go completely. It means that you're all on board. It just means that you have a different level of responsibility, because your responsibility is having everybody on board with that one vision.
That's right.
Everyone on board with that one goal. And when you do that, then as you talk to that person, the marketer or the manager or the customer service liaison or whoever it is, when you're talking to that person, you're asking them questions that relate to the vision and checking in on them to see that they're aligned with the vision.
That's right.
And then letting them go and blossom in their chosen field aligned with the vision, because then you can go and do the same thing. So an entrepreneur will really not stand over and micromanage. They allow themselves to step back, because they understand that they have done the right thing or the best job in employing that person, and they employing someone who's doing a high priority task that is a high priority for that person, not for them.
And I think you got a point there as well, that, you know, an entrepreneur will delegate down all of the things that are not high priority.
Oh, totally.
And that creates a vacuum, because it's conservation of energy.
That's how you build the business.
By making sure that anything that is low priority is delegated to a new employee.
And the new employee, the key is that it might be low priority for you, but for the new employee, that's high priority. Because we don't marketing is not our forte. And we don't want to do that. We want to create and present and do all those things. So we delegate to someone whose love is marketing. And we do the same thing with the customer liaisons, with the managers, with everybody. We delegate to the people, to the accounts people, to the people who love to do what they do. Yep, totally. Okay, the last one. This is a really good one, because it's a really important one. An entrepreneur is a we person. An entrepren-not is an I person. And what that means is that an entrepreneur thinks that they can get there just perfectly on their own.
But the other thing is that an entrepreneur will tell you they're a we person, but when they're under pressure, they operate in the land of I.
Yeah, totally. Yep. So a we person is somebody who understands that in order to get to where they want to go to, that there are skills and abilities that are required to get them there, but they're not their highest priority. So it's about delegating to those people, and those people are no less important than themselves. So they act as a team. They understand that when everybody shares the same vision, they all grow and move together. Whereas an entrepreneur will try and herd people in that direction, but they can't, it doesn't work, because what they're trying to do is they're saying, I'm the most important person here, and I'm going to get you to do this and you to do this and you to do this. But he doesn't realise, or she doesn't realise, that they're actually on the same team. So they don't know how to communicate to them on the same team. Now, we've just spent some time with Dave Logan. Now, Dave Logan is the co-author of a book called Tribal Leadership, which is like gospel in our business. It's an amazing, amazing book because it really talks about the different levels of leadership. And just to give you a quick overview, most people operate at level 2 or 3 in their businesses. A level 1 person is a person who believes that life is shit, that no good can come from life.
And even if you sit with them, so you get an understanding of a level 1 person, even if you sit with them and you try to convince them that life is great, they actually think that you are completely nuts.
Yes.
Because as far as they're concerned, life is shit.
Yes. And you will find a lot of these types of people in gangs and things like that.
Yeah, prisons,
and gangs.
Yeah.
So there's the very level 1 and level 5 are the lowest number percentage-wise of the population. So in terms of level 2, the next level up, if you imagine that they had a T-shirt and that their slogan would be, "My life is shit."
Yeah.
Now that's a progression from the level 1 because they understand that life can be good, but their life isn't good.
But their life is shit.
They
get that. For other people,
it's possible.
It's possible to have a good life, but in terms of their life, it's just shit.
And we all fall back into that category at some times,
Yeah.
in work, in social, in family, in financial. Now, level 3 is where a lot of people operate from. And level 3 is, I'm great. Now, the problem with I'm great, now we all have to go through these levels. There's nothing wrong with any of these levels. It's like a progression through school in a way. But there's nothing wrong with these levels. But the problem with level 3 is when you say I'm great, you're assuming other people are not.
Yeah.
I'm great, but you're not.
Yeah.
So
you blame, you might feel that you're great, but your dissatisfaction in not being able to fulfill your career is the fact that the people around you were not good enough in their career or with their capabilities, and you were relying on them to be good enough. So you scapegoat them, and you still think that I'm great.
Yes. So an entrepren-not is caught at level 3.
Yeah.
So between level 2 and 3, they can't surpass level 3. Okay. They might have little moments of it, but in essence, the essence of them doesn't surpass level 3. An entrepreneur can go past level 3, and an entrepreneur level 4 is we're great, and they have an understanding that where they want to go to, they cannot get on their own. They need a team around them. So we're great means that as a community or as a team and as a group, we're great.
Yes.
We have something of value. Now, in order to get to that point, you have to have an understanding of I'm great, because if you're not great, then you don't have anything to contribute to the we're great mentality. But it's bigger than the I'm great mentality, because you see the benefits and what everybody else brings to the table.
The other thing that Dave really pointed out was that there's an epiphany has to occur at level 3.
To move from level 3 to 4.
To move from level 3 to 4. There's an epiphany has to happen for every individual within the organisation.
Yes.
And the epiphany has to be that exactly how awesome it is what they bring to the table.
Absolutely.
It can't just be, hey, I'm great. But
it can't be words. It has to be a feeling.
An absolute epiphany inside of them that they suddenly realise, wow. And that epiphany allows them to see that everything is intrinsically connected at level 4.
Yeah.
So you can't go from 3 to 4 unless you've had an absolute epiphany.
Which is like a shifting of the innermost dominant thought. That has to shift.
You have to get that everything is intrinsically linked.
Absolutely. And then level 5, which is also a level that most people don't reach, is that life is great. Because the problem with level 4, in that we're great, it means that they're not great.
Yeah.
So that we as a community might be great, but over there they're not. Whereas level 5 is that life is great.
Life is great.
Now,
and organisations oscillate and tick-tock between 5 and 4, 5 and 4, 4 and 3, 4 and 3.
Yeah. But an entrepreneur-not is definitely stuck at level 3.
Yeah.
And the reason that they're stuck at level 3, and this is really important, is because they're trying to display to the world the I'm great that they don't feel inside.
Yes.
So what's happening is, this is where the lack of epiphany comes in. So they're trying to be out there, because for an I'm great to allow we're great to happen, it means that they have to intrinsically get that they're great. So their innermost dominant thought has to shift in them. So what's happening is they're feeling like they're not enough inside. They're feeling like they've got to make it right outside of them so that everybody else can see that they're actually great. Would you agree?
Yeah.
So I think that, as we've gone through this webinar, we've shown that, there has to be a mindset shift
Yeah.
inside, because an entrepreneur is an entrepren-not is only stuck at that place because somehow or another they've got that innermost dominant thought that keeps them stuck, that keeps them locked in a frame of mind of I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy enough, I'm not smart enough. And that stuff is unconscious. We don't realise it. And you might feel that as you've been listening to this, that you might only you have many of the traits of an entrepreneur, but maybe only one or two of an entrepren-not. But those one or two are going to stop you from getting to where you want to go to. That's where your innermost dominant thought is caught up in.
Now, I know that at this point, with you listening to everything you've listened to, that it's very likely that there's a part of you is going, okay, I get that there is an incongruency between where I am and where I want to be. And I get that I cannot create a greater reality based on the feelings and emotions that have created the one I'm in. So you must, at this point, know that there's an inner dominating thought that you need to shift. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.